can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Okay, now we're about to chat to a couple of blokes who are O'Brien Real Estate, the principals of O'Brien Real Estate. One of them is John Rombotis and the other is Darren Hutchins. But before we speak about O'Brien Real Estate, about what they wanted to speak about O'Brien Real Estate, I only know John Rombotis. I know Darren, but I know John Rombotis from a different arena. He is an MC and organises auctions. I presume he's an auctioneer and auctions items at sports functions I go to. He sometimes engages me to speak, and for as many as he engages me, he cancels most of them because people find out that I'm speaking, and then there's a groundswell of resistance, and they say, what have you got him speaking for? And I'm only fortunate that I don't do it for a living and don't give a stuff if I get cancelled, because I quite enjoy it when I get cancelled, because you wonder why you get engaged in the first place. I don't know what they think I'm going to speak about, but they'd probably know. And so it's an interesting scenario, and I enjoy it. So welcome, John, and welcome, Darren. Before I get on to you, Darren, and get on to O'Brien Real Estate, you played football.
I did, Sammy,
John.
yeah. Spent 7 years in the system.
Yeah, with 3 different clubs.
3 different clubs.
And amassed and I don't say this facetiously, but you played 48 games, and people would think, well, that's not a hell of a lot of games, but if you play one game of AFL, VFL football, you're a good footballer.
Well, you played 300, Sammy, but
no,
yeah.
I know that. But as I say, playing 48 games, people will say, well, I suppose you weren't that successful as it in longevity goes, but if you play one game of AFL football, you're a very good footballer.
Do you do your homework though, Sammy? What was the number 1 draft pick of Port Adelaide's history?
What's that, mate?
Do you know the number 1 draft pick for Port Adelaide's history was?
Do I know the number 1 draft pick of Port
Adelaide's history?
Yeah, you.
That's right.
Yeah,
it only lasted 48 games. 7 years.
And we hear about it all the time, Sam.
Yeah.
Injuries was the main reason.
Yes.
Yes, injuries.
When you said, do I do my homework, what, you don't think I'd know that? You don't think I looked that up?
I don't know. I don't know, Sammy.
Do you know how many games you played for Port Adelaide?
9.
Yeah, that's correct.
Correct.
And
yes.
do you know how many games you played for Fitzroy? The old Fitzroy?
26.
That's correct. And of course you played a staggering amount for Richmond. How many?
Well, we add that up, it's 13.
Yeah, that's right. And it comes to 43 games.
48 games.
48 games.
But I tell everyone I played a lot more.
And injury, and you kicked 23 goals.
23 goals.
So that's almost a goal every 2 games.
Yes. Exactly, Sammy.
Yeah,
you don't always get cancelled on our events.
What?
You don't always get cancelled on our events. You've been fantastic.
Mate, please.
You know that yourself.
John, I love it when people... I've been asked to speak at plenty of places, and I'll say, yep. I said, now just, this is good. And they say, no, we would like you to come and speak. I said, well, just check with everyone that they're all okay. and I get dragged back and they say, Sam, look, they've moved the date. I said, mate, I've been cancelled, haven't I? And they say, well, look, there's a couple of people. I said, fine. I actually enjoy it, because if you think I go to speak at functions, I don't swear gratuitously, only if it's in
the right text.
I just say things that people find a little politically incorrect, but I enjoy that, because if you take seriously what anyone says at a sports night and think that that's how you operate in real life, and I actually enjoy doing it and seeing people's reaction, because it's only meant to be tongue-in-cheek humour. So beside all that, I was going to say something about... so you said injuries, John.
Yes, had a debilitating injury, a shoulder injury, round 2 in 2000 against Essendon.
Did you?
Mm.
Yeah, well, I missed the equivalent of 5 years of football through injuries. I played 303 games for Geelong and missed 100 games through injury, which is the equivalent of 5 seasons, if you consider 5 20s, 20 games. And
yes.
Yeah, so So I can match any injury that you've had, mate.
Yeah, I think out of the 7 years I had, I missed about 3 years. So you're right. So
So there it's just...
Yeah, how many years did you play?
18. So it's a
18.
game of attrition. That's what it is. And you amassed a total of 2 Brownlow votes. The only 2 Brownlow votes you got was against Carlton.
I guess you got 3 votes.
I don't know.
My opponent.
Is that right?
That's right. Brad Ratton got 3. I got 2.
That's right. Well, how ridiculous is that?
You believe that?
Just shows you how bogus.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The
Well, no, it
umpires
just
are.
shows you how bogus the well, I say bogus, how ridiculous the Brownlow is because, well, it is, isn't it? Who decides that? The people who umpire the game decide it, and if they can't get most of their decisions right, how would they get most of the decisions right about who's the best player? Those who are under their nose and don't swear at them and don't have an attitude of dissent.
Well, there should be a panel, shouldn't there?
But I transgress. I don't transgress. So you then became a real estate agent after your stellar AFL career.
It was a promising
John?
career which came to an end, but yeah, I got the adrenaline of auctioning.
Yes.
Become my love, and I love doing
the
that.
adrenaline of what? Hey, well, all right, so here we go. Then when are you going to bid for it? I bid 25. Will you give me 30? Will you give me 35? Will you give... Is all that stuff just standing up,
Well,
speaking
it's
shit to
pinballing.
people?
It we call it pinball.
Yeah, mind the step.
Mind the step. Yeah, so that's my rule, love.
Yeah.
And I've done that for 22 years now.
All right,
for
and
real estate.
you enlisted. So Darren Hutchins, how did you get involved in this?
How did I get involved in it? Well, if we go right back, Sam, I was involved in a racing family. My father was a trainer. My grandfather was a trainer. I jumped the fence and became a steward and wasn't liked that much. And then I got out of it. So 20 years ago I got out of it. I started working with a company out in Berwick called Noel Jones, and then 7 years later we didn't like the person we were working with there too much, and a fellow by the name of Dean O'Brien and myself started O'Brien Real Estate. So almost 14 years ago, and then a couple of years back, this guy was...
Where'd you see me, Daz? What was the function you saw me at?
now you're testing the memory, mate.
Well, the Altman Brothers function.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And
Anyway.
Rombo was telling me that he was...
Rombo.
Johnny
Rombo?
Rombo?
Johnny Rom, Rombo, Rambo.
He was telling me he was just about done with real estate.
I was.
Had enough, and I said to him, pardon the pun, that's bullshit. I said, you got too much to offer. So we fired him up and got him back into the game.
What was that?
There was the...
What was that?
That's okay. A little clip.
Fell off who? You or me or what? Who'd it fall off?
That's just fine underneath here. That's right.
Oh, I thought someone's throwing stuff at us. So this is the old team of Rombo and Hutch. Could be Starsky and Hutch, but it's Rombo and Hutch.
There he is. Sammy boy.
So people at this stage will be wondering why I've got you in here to speak to you. This is nothing more than a paid political advertisement for your company, isn't it?
No, it's not. No,
I'm
being facetious, eh?
Do you know what facetious means?
I hear that from Duck all the time.
Who?
Duck would always say that word all the time.
Facetious.
Facetious, yeah.
People think that's facetious is a note of humour in being facetious. It's a sort of a tongue-in-cheek, humorous aside, but people take it as that it's a bad word, as in you're putting shit on someone. I'm not putting shit on you, but I'm just wondering, if people would be wondering why I'm speaking to you about O'Brien's Real Estate. And you're going to tell me that you're not a real estate agent, you're a realtor or a realtor. Isn't that what the Americans call it these days?
Yeah, the Americans like to call them realtors.
A realtor.
Yeah.
And so why is O'Brien's, the team of Rambo and Hutch, why are they different from any other realtor, if there is a difference?
Well, I think from a point of view of you can't be serious, I was very passionate about outlining about the ranges that occur in terms of real estate. It's got to a stage now where I've been in it for 22 years. I think, Darren, you've been in it for the same. And you want to elaborate what we're talking about is that when you actually have a expectation or a reserve or a price in mind.
Yes.
When you have that, Sam.
Who doesn't have that?
Well, the vendor knows what they want. We know we know what they expect based on comparable sales. And we get into a stage and we're getting very frustrated that other agents are putting ranges in place when the reserve's at the level it should be at, and it's obviously under quoting. So when we do our, Sammy, when
Yes,
O'Brien's
yes,
or
Rambo.
when Darren and I
Yes.
facilitate and run campaigns or properties, we if we want a certain price, the reserve is in the range. It's getting beyond my nerves to find that I'm seeing other agents doing something completely different over a period of time. So it's not an advertising tool. It's purely saying that we are here to outline that.
Right. Now you got to go. I'm only partially educated, right?
Oh, tell
so I just want you to I've understood about 1/10 of what you said then. So the sales technique of being an agent is to try and get people to come and bid or offer an amount of money for a property, and obviously the vendor. Obviously, the agent is going to say to attract more heads to come through the door, or people to. They're going to say it's about in the $1 million range, this property, and it might well go for $1.5 million, $1.6 million, $1.7 million, but that's surely the supply and demand of the people who come, aren't they? People will come and be enticed by the fact it might have a low reserve, or they think it's a low reserve.
It is.
So what is wrong with that?
Well, Sam, I think it's deceptive. I think at the end of the day, it's
of
deceptive
course it
because,
is.
Consumer Affairs, they've got a job to do, and I think they're doing a pretty good job at the moment. They're trying to clean up the industry, but I think from a potential, buyer's perspective, you walk into a property thinking, oh, well, they're quoting 900 to a million, or 900 to 990, 10%. And their expectations within that reserve, and then it sells for 1.3, 1.4. Now, you can't be serious as an agent if you don't know from day one what that vendor wants, okay? You can't tell me that if I sit in Sam Newman's lounge room and have a conversation with Sam about selling a beautiful apartment, that Sam doesn't know what he wants. And he's not going to say to me, Darren, this is the figure I want. Okay, how you get it is up to you. So hypothetically, you say I want 1.5 for this beautiful apartment, and I go and promote that apartment at 1.2 to 1.3, call it, less than 10%, but a 1.2 to 1.3 range to attract all those people through, then, your expectation's 1.5. That is underquoting, and it's deceptive to the public.
So you made a general statement that it's a deceptive practice. Tell me an industry in the world that's not based on deception.
Well, we're right up there with car dealers. And,
we're right there. Every industry is deceptive, isn't it? You go to the supermarket, they will advertise.
But the price is the price, Sam.
Well, so
in the supermarket,
so
you know what you're buying.
Are you saying that in order to be ethical and moral, that if I am selling a property and I say to you, I want $1.7 million for it, that's my reserve, you saying that you should start an auction off and say to people, welcome everyone, before we start, the reserve on this is $1.7 million, so if there's no bids up until 1.7, you might as well start the bidding at 1.7, if there's no bids, we'll wind it up.
My opinion, Sam?
Yes.
My opinion,
that's what you're here for,
professionally,
Hutch.
I think, thanks.
Yes, Robbo and Hutch.
I think if Consumer Affairs and the Victorian government want to get serious about this, it's very simple. If the vendor wants 1.7 as a reserve, quote it. Quote it through the campaign. If people don't turn up, if people don't see value at 1.7, then the vendor's got it wrong. And the agent's not the one copping it in the neck. So the vendor can then make a decision and say, well, I think my property's worth 1.7, but I tell you what, I'm going to punt it a little bit. I'm going to be a bit of a punter here. I'm going to drop my reserve back to 1.5. So it's on the market at 1.5. Okay, I'm a seller at 1.5, and I'm going to back that property in to achieve somewhere around 1.6 or 1.7. That's the vendor's prerogative then. It takes it away from the agent. It's the but the people that are turning up at that auction know full well that originally the vendor's expectation was 1.7. They bought it back to 1.5, hypothetically, Sam. Okay, and the property is on the market and will sell at 1.5 if there's no more competition. Back to your supply and demand. Comment earlier.
I'm even cutting Bottas out. It's Rom and Hutch. Now, Rom, tell me, I'm with you. I know what you're saying. But if I am selling a property and I obviously want top price for it and I overestimate what I think it's worth, and you say, oh no, the market won't stand that. That's not what the going price. We've done our research and all that. And I say, well, I want to get this for it. And you say, all right, well, that's my reserve. So you're saying that you should advertise it at the reserve that I want. And when the auction starts, when the auction starts, that you say, right, well, the vendor, what am I, the vendor? I don't know. I'm the vendor. I'm the vendor. Yep. The vendor wants $1.7 million for this property. Do we have it so? And do we have any bids at 1.7? And then there's none. There's silence because there obviously would be, because people think, oh well, hang on a minute, we'll start at 1.5. So was there any bids at all? Someone says 1.3, and you say, right, thank you very much, and we're in business. So off we go. What is the point of saying the reserve is 1.7? Because when there's no more bids, you're going to say, well, I'm just going to chat amongst yourselves. I'm going to check with the vendor, and you go out the back and you pretend to have a discussion. You come back and say, we're not quite there yet, gentlemen, or ladies, or everyone. Can't say ladies and gentlemen these days.
Yes.
This is one of the things I got cancelled for. I said, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And someone said, no, that's not inclusive. You've got to say everyone, because there's 38 different sexes and 94 different genders.
Exactly.
And you've got to say everyone. I said, oh, shit, I'm sorry about that. So we can't have you speaking at our next function. So that you go out the back and have this bogus conversation. You come back and you say, well, the property is not quite there yet. Is there any further bids? What is the difference?
Just to simplify it, the refreshing part of real estate for us at the moment is that we're the experts. You're engaging us to sell your property.
Yes.
We believe if it's worth 1.7, that's great. Here's a range. The expectation of the range is we want to try and achieve 1.7, but here's a range 1.6, 1.7,
Yes.
based on competition, based on the information we get through the open inspections. By that stage of the auction itself, that's how we're doing it. We're getting less numbers through. The credibility is fantastic, because people say it's refreshing that this operation, we'll say Darren and John.
Well, so what do the people that your competitors do that you don't agree with? They
do their own agenda, but
they lowball the price to get more heads in, do they? What's wrong with that?
Well, it's not transparent. The reality is, if we think it's worth 1.7, then we'll have the range accurately to that level. We're more accurate than anyone else. I'd rather have less numbers through than have a whole range of people coming through saying, if you don't know what it's worth and you've been in it for 22 years, with comparable sales, you get 3 comparable sales, then there's something wrong. If you're an expert in the industry and you can't determine what that property's worth and have the vendor's communication say, well, I believe it's worth, from what I'm seeing, there's obviously a lot of comparable sales, it's worth 1.7. Well, we're going to go to auction, and the best form reserve will be determined on the day.
Now, I understand what you're saying, and I'm sort of being the devil's advocate here. So you only have to have, I would suggest, you only have to have 1 or 2 properties just go beyond your wildest expectations, and people say, well, I'll be fucked. I came down here thinking the reserve was 1.7, it's gone for $2.4 million, and they say, geez, the agents didn't. Why wouldn't the agents tell us that you only have to have 2 people want the property for whatever reason? Money's no problem.
Agree.
And then your reputation's shot.
There's always that scenario where you'll get 2 or 3 people, that'll really want something for whatever reason it may be. But I think if you generalise, the consumer is what the government's trying to protect, and Consumer Affairs are trying to protect, and we're the whipping boys. At the end of the day, we become the whipping boys because we do put a quote range that's way below what the vendor's expecting as a group of agents across the board. And, if they want to get serious about it, if the government want to get serious about it, well, maybe it gets back to a point of saying, well, the vendor's reserve is disclosed through the whole campaign. And if the vendor's got it wrong, and the vendor's not listening to his agent, well, that's back on the vendor.
Now, I have to declare not a financial interest in this, but I have to declare that I saw on one of your websites Kevin Sheedy advertising a penthouse that I used to own, and the person who bought it from me has put it on the market.
That's right.
And so we'll get on to Kevin Sheedy advertising it in a minute. So I know what I paid for that place, and I know what it's being asked, which is a very fair price for that place, I believe. So So would you have not got more? I don't know how that's going, but if you'd advertised it at a lower reserve, or not a reserve, if you'd advertised it, this is about the range.
That's a great example we're trying to say. Exactly what you're saying, Sammy. So
what am I saying? I'm not sure what I'm saying.
If you don't mind me saying that,
no, I do.
Property was sold for $5 million. As you know, he bought it off you for $5 million.
Did I get $5 million for it?
You did get $5 million.
I wonder what I told the tax department. No, I didn't. No, I'm only joking.
And the other one
PPR,
sold,
Sam.
The other one sold for
no tax. You're safe.
No, not at all.
The other one sold for 5.460 in 2014, which is 4,001. Your 4,002.
Yeah,
that was fully renovated, and the Chinese bought that particular one. So we've got this one on the market now, and now we're quoting in we call it a sweet spot between 5 and 5.5.
Yep. No, that's a very fair price. Seeing as the one I know, the one's sold opposite me because there was 2 on the top floor. It sold for 5.5 like 10 years ago, didn't it? Or not that long ago.
The one across the other side we sold last year for 6.75 million, which is across the other side. So, but the 5 to 5.5 is indication that we could have quoted that like 4.5 to 5 and waste people's time. So it's in the sweet spot. Got a couple of candidates, closes in a couple of weeks' time. So,
is it by
expressions of interest?
By expressions
of interest. So negotiation model, and hopefully
we'll
get
you've
rectified.
Got
in a couple
the great
of
Kevin Sheedy doing the spruiking, and
I'd like to get you involved too.
I'm going to say, it's my fucking property. Why didn't you get me to walk through it? And so I could have said this is no, but I'm only I jest. So you got Kevin doing a little work for you. You think he's a good seller, do you?
I think he's got a
good reputation, has he? No,
well, he's going through.
No, I know he's got.
That's outrageous. He's going through at the moment?
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, that is outrageous. But that's part of the lazy.
42 years ago.
That's part of the lazy narrative that goes on with all these things about racism and homophobia and sexism. It's just lazy people who have no better expression than go down those buzzwords of racism and all that, and don't get me onto that. This is one of the reasons I get cancelled off sports nights, because I've had enough of all this nonsense.
Well,
we are all one people, and this competition that you were part of and I was part of keep trying to divide people along race. I don't know why we divide people on a regular basis about race. Those people over there and those people over there, and why they do it, I have no idea. I turned the footy
on Saturday night, I think it was, and I couldn't understand which team was which.
So
I had no idea who was playing.
So this is the nonsense of it. We've got right off the subject, but.
Yeah, so Kevin right now, based on he's at the age of 76, he's absolutely magnificent.
He is.
And he shoots from the hip. He's got a great knowledge.
I shoot from the hip, but you cancel me every other time. No, mate.
So Kevin, but what about Kevin when that did happen?
Yeah,
if you don't mind me saying it.
No.
He actually, to see his eyes and how he was absolutely devastated.
Of course he is, because the people...
He started the Indigenous program. Anyway,
I know, because the people who do all this have no shame. They have no shame what they say and what they do, and they listen to no logical reason why we say what we say, but it's an industry, and it's a cottage industry of being annoyed and think you're being victims, and it goes on, and no one ever pushes back on it except people like people who just call it for what it is. So you say that do you ever have other agents or ever? No, so what's the advocacy agents that say? You hear buyer agents. That's people who just push you towards where an agent that they get bigger commission from. Is that right?
Well,
what are buyer advocates?
Buyers advocates is the great thing is when they're coming through your property or the vendor's property, or we've got a campaign on, and they got to get paid from the buyer. So if they're coming through, they communicate rightly. We've got a buyer there because they got to get paid their fee from the buyer.
So effectively what they're doing is they're sourcing a property out for Sam. Okay, Sam, we've got this amazing property. Let's go and have a look at it, and we'll negotiate on it. We'll save you money, and you pay us a fee as a buyer agent.
Yeah.
And what is the difference between a buyer agent and a realtor or an estate agent?
They're still technically a real estate agent, Sam, or a realtor in America.
So they represent the buyer only. We represent the vendor. We represent the seller.
I see.
Yeah, we represent the selling person, and they represent the buyer.
And so just in the larger scheme of things, has the we're going with the land tax. Has that seen more properties, or don't you get involved in that? More properties come on the market from
100%.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
I was actually out on Saturday night.
How to cruel a city or a state or a country.
I was out on Saturday night with one of the biggest builders in Melbourne, who has a massive portfolio, and he has culled a third of his portfolio. He's had to sell a third of his portfolio because, as he said to me, he said, Darren, a property in Langwarrin that gets $22,000 a year in rent, I'm now paying $10,000 to $11,000 in land tax.
Yeah, because we pay for the incompetence of the state government, who have got us into almost $200 billion worth of debt, and the only way to pay for it is to slug people who actually have worked for a living and got something behind them, and we'll take it off them. It's the great socialist scheme that we're involved in here, mate.
That's called a Victorian Labor government.
That's exactly what it's called, the most corrupt and dishonest government ever in the history of the planet.
Well, was a client of ours up in Bungalong, which is up near Yarrawonga.
I know where it is.
He was paying $300 land tax 15 years ago. Now he's paying $18,000. It's outrageous. This doesn't stop.
So there's a couple of key things that you can really hone in on there, Sam, is the lack of development opportunity. They've killed the building industry with their big build, absolutely destroyed the building industry. And, where are they going to place all these people that are moving in, the migrants? So the other thing is now you've got a situation where landlords that have been good landlords for a long period of time are selling their investments off, and they're going to first home owners. So the investment pool is smaller and smaller and cribbing smaller and smaller by the day.
So you would think that this has knocked the real estate industry about a bit, but probably the converse is true. If there's more properties being sold because people can't afford the land tax, this is a bit of a fillip for people like you, is it not? Or is that reverse psychology?
Well, how many?
Well, I think it is. I think it is. It's probably held and underpinned the industry a bit because there's more properties coming through. But don't forget the mums and dads that would look to make that step up into the next property. They might go from a nice little 3-bedroom cottage to a 4-bed and a study and whatever else. With rates the way they are at the moment, Sam, they're not making that move. So there's 11 different property types or people that sea change, be it sea change, work, whatever the case is. Divorce. Yeah, we've all had a few of those, but I think the thing that is to a degree underpinning it is the fact that landlords are selling, and the other thing we've got to look at from a real estate perspective is there's not enough houses being built. So supply and demand, it's going to get tougher before it gets easier.
So Rombo. If you were going to buy a property, what is the first thing you would look for? The area, the old adage, buy the worst joint in the best street or something. What would you look for if you're going to? So
got to buy a house.
Advice would you give
if you can't
to
afford
people?
it, you want to buy a house. If you can't
What's that?
afford it. You want to buy a house if you can't afford it. That's the key. Land. Always appreciates in value.
Land
in the house.
because they're not making any more of it. Land.
What's what you said before about that? The price bracket in terms of reserve, they skyrocket. So if you got something unique, you got a house and land. That's why you can't.
I notice the government now going to tax vacant land. Did you know there's taxing land tax on vacant land now? If you've had it for a certain number of years, they're in retrospect going back and taxing you for having a vacant block of land with nothing on it.
Yeah,
That's I tell you. I say, why do we put up with that? We put up with it because we are a democratic country and a democratic state, and if you don't like what's going on, you vote people out, but no one votes them out.
It's incredible. Yeah.
They're all on the gravy train, entitlements and benefits and looking after the public service, and it just goes round and round. And there's no other system. Well, there is another system. You want to see the system that's going on in the States, where they put their political opponents in jail, or try to. Wait till that comes here. The Labor government aren't trying to put the Liberal opposition in jail because they're just piss weak. When you got over there Mr Trump going gangbusters, they try and put him in jail because they can't beat him any other way. But don't start me on that. So there we are. So now, just on your stellar career of football, I notice, do I not, that you coach a women's football side? Do you?
My daughter's side, I did do that, actually.
Yes, well, it's a woman's foot. That
was a beautiful part of my life, actually.
You still do that?
Not anymore.
No, and why not?
She's 18 now.
I see.
She's past that, but it was a...
And when you did it, were you was it just biological females played, or did you allow trans people to play?
I'm serious.
No,
not at 12 years old. Good call, actually. Back then, when she was 6 years ago, it was all females.
Yeah.
So, there was a Brighton Beach primary.
See,
very enjoyable.
There's a thing fraught with danger. If you have an opinion that you shouldn't have biological males play biological women's sport, you get cancelled for saying that. Why that is not logical, I have no idea. But when you have fuck you money like the woman Rowlands, what's her name, who wrote
Harry Potter.
Yeah, what's her name?
J.R. Rowlings.
J.R. Rowlings. She has that opinion, but they can't cancel her because she's a billionaire twice over. So she doesn't get cancelled from anything because she says, fuck you, I'll say what I like. I say that and you cancel me. No, I'm only joking, mate. I enjoy it.
We love it.
I actually enjoy it.
Did you find the events very professional, Sammy?
Yes, we.
It's the lady over there that runs them all.
We had you down at Anarchy, and you were best on ground down there.
No, because people get it. They know that what you say is either pretty logical or what the rank and file, the majority of people think anyhow. And it's only the people who haven't...
You do know your performance at that golf day, though. You did get 3 events out of that golf day, though.
Which golf day?
The O'Brien golf day.
No, I got cancelled from one of them because we had a... I said
you have got 3.
So I said I said
events out of it.
I said I don't know why we have Welcome to Country at every single event.
Yeah,
if you want to try and make people other than Indigenous people second-class citizens in the country you live in, just do Welcome to Country every function you go to, and you think, shit. I feel a bit inferior being here in this country. So I said that at a function. This bloke, a very nice man, got up and he was, I think, whiter than I've never seen him more. He said, "I'm an Aboriginal." I said, "Are you, mate?" He said, "Yeah," and I'm not knocking him. And he said, "Is there a place for Welcome to Country anywhere?" And I said, "No, there's not." And I think that got me cancelled, didn't it?
Darren?
Mate,
don't point the bone my way.
Don't point the bone. That would get you cancelled. So you can't say anything. So no, I keep bringing this up because I actually find it humorous. So that's all. So you do auctions besides real estate auctions. You do them at functions that raise money for charity and everything. And I've been part of several functions you've
Can I sit
run?
in and say something there, Sam?
Please,
I think at the end of the day, what John does outside of real estate is phenomenal. He raises a lot of money right across the board.
He does.
He does a hell of a lot for autism. He does a hell of a lot for. On the weekend, he was up on the Gold Coast for vets. Raised a poultice of cash for vets. And I think, hats off to John. He's phenomenal as an auctioneer, real estate wise. He's phenomenal as an auctioneer on the the events and charity and
mate, I've been to.
He does a super job, Sam, to raise a lot of money for people that need it.
Were you suggesting I didn't say he didn't do a good job? No, he's fantastic. I've been to plenty of things, and he. It's quite a difficult thing to sell memorabilia items after memorabilia items because people go in a bit hard early, and then at the end when the other
when the Sam
items,
Newman 300 game mark or whatever comes out.
yeah, that's right.
That's a bit of a tough one to sell.
Yeah, so.
Your boat cruises are going very well, aren't they?
Oh, very good. Yeah, have you been on one of our boat cruises? You were going to come. You had booked to come on a boat cruise not long ago, and I never heard from you.
It was the weather. You said Birmingham weather was cold.
I have the best host in Australia.
Yeah, that's right. You came on at Hutch.
Well, you know, you got $20,000 sold out twice for your function, the autism. So you played a pivotal role as well.
What do I get out of it?
What goes
Fuck all. I get only the enjoyment of someone, the money going to the charity that it's raised for. It costs me fuel and food and grog, and I wouldn't have it any other way because that's my way of donating. Instead of buying a raffle ticket, I donate the trip.
40,000 combined, thanks to you.
Isn't it good, eh? Aren't I a star? And how philanthropic can I get?
You got a nice picture of yourself on the screen. It was nice. Sammy Kekovich was MC.
And for anyone wanting to bid on one?
Stanley OAM, she comes on and A drives the boat. And also
6-time world champion.
66-time world champion. She was just a 4-time. We've got it up to 5. By the time
up to 7
I
one of the
reckon
functions,
years
didn't
out, we'll have her up to a 32.
Can I say
she's only 31.
Can I say the highlight of the day is watching Sue backing that boat in? Precision, absolute precision. Sam.
No, so this is true. It's quite a big boat for overseas standards. People would use it as a tender, but here it's a reasonably big boat, and you've got to back the thing in with a like you're playing a video game on a remote control, and young Susan stands up the back there and backs it in, and everyone goes, "Oh, look at this." We'll be ready to jump off when it just collides with the wharf, and it never does. It never does. So
we're doing the podcast on the boat, are we? What's up?
Yeah, we're going to do the podcast.
Yep.
So we are going to do that.
That'd be fantastic.
Now, what else was I going to ask you? What else was I going to? I can't think of what else I was going to ask you. So, are we going well? Is the business? How long you been in business? You two together? O'Brien's Real Estate. This is the paid part of the ad.
Well, I don't want paid out. It was more of a.
No,
I was very strong, Sammy. About can't be serious on that, on the quoting. But you want to say how long? 47 offices, I believe. Is that correct? Got a HQ in Albert Park, which is on Farrar Street.
Just open on Farrar Street.
HQ.
HQ,
O'Brien's HQ.
Yeah, HQ. I think you said, didn't you?
So we've just opened there, Sam. You're welcome to wander down for a coffee anytime.
To headquarters in where is it?
Farrar Street, opposite St Vincent Place, the park there.
Can't miss it.
Yeah, I know Farrar.
It's an old furniture shop there.
Farrar Street is Canterbury Road, isn't it?
Your old stomping ground down the other end. That's right.
Where is it?
You're down here in the old days down here. It's further up when you go down that petrol station on the left on Farrar Street.
Past Pamela
across the road there, that massive old furniture shop there. Yeah, that's all O'Brien HQ.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah, so
all the training, everything there's in there.
So we've been going 13 and a bit years, Sam. We opened the doors back. We opened the doors on the Monday after the drawn grand final in 2010. So my business partner said to me, he goes, "It's the most fearful period of my life." And I said, "Why is that, Dean?" He goes, "If Collingwood win the grand final on Saturday," he said, "you're going to be pissed for a month, and we're opening a business." So as it turns out, they didn't. We went back the week after, and I was there at work on Monday morning. So
all right. Well, look, I reckon you should get a big neon sign put up saying Rambo and Hutch.
Rambo and Hutch.
Rambo and Hutch. And
I do like that, actually. It's
Rambo and Hutch. But it's O'Brien's Real Estate. Well, I think we've sort of smothered the fact that it's just an advertorial. I think we've smothered that, haven't
I hope we have.
I've asked you some generic questions about your football career the fact that you coached women in football, and I said that I hope they're all just biological women, and you didn't touch that because you don't want to get cancelled from anything you do, so you're very diplomatic. And you've said that your old man was a crook, wasn't he? No, who you said? You said you were a crook.
My grandfather was.
Your grandfather was a crook in the horse racing industry.
No, so he wasn't a crook. He was an exceptional trainer, but different times, Sam. Different times.
See, that was a throwaway line too.
Different times. I had to make a quid somehow.
You know what? If you are if you're so hyperbolic, which means hyperbole, which means exaggerate. If you exaggerate so much, people will know that you're not serious, but people take it so seriously if you say something that's obviously not true. They take it on. They virtually take it on face value, and you say, "Do you really think that?" And you said, "Do you really think I think that?"
My grandfather once said to me, "Sam, it's only a rort if you're not involved."
That's correct. That's correct. I said at one function I went to. I know you haven't heard. Someone was talking about their mother-in-law. I said, "Yeah, I was talking to a bloke. He said there was a knock at the door. He said he knew it was his mother-in-law because he could hear the rats throwing themselves on the traps." And, people said, that's not racist, that's sexist and ageist. And I said, well, don't you find that, I said to the person, don't you find that humorous? That is so stupid, don't you find that humorous? And they said, well, mother-in-laws are great people. Oh, I said, fuck, give me a break, will you? So anyhow, yeah, I like all that stuff.
I totally agree. I enjoy your...
Oh, no, you probably cringe at some of the stuff.
No, not at all.
Anyhow, it's good. So look, anyhow, John Rombotis,
Samuel,
and Darren Hutchins, thank you very much for coming in. We wish you well. I'll see you at various functions. I don't know if I see you, Darren, at many functions, but if you're in the audience, I'll say hello to you, and he'll be running most of them. So,
well, Jules will be running those. She's the boss.
Why haven't we spoken to you? No, it's no good speaking now because you're not next to a microphone. Well, why did Jules come over here and speak to us?
She'd come to see you and see Sue, but she's
what?
wonderful. She's a wonderful partner.
She run the joint.
She runs the events. Yes.
Well, why I should have given you the. She should.
She can give you the ask 1 minute if you want.
What?
Come on, Jules, say a quick.
Here, I'll pass the mic.
That's all good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam.
That is it. And
appreciate it.
Fun, Sam.
We'll see you at one of the functions.
When are you back? We're going to 3 months, isn't it? Is that right?
Oh, something like that.
Because you are
might
booked.
be back within
You know,
a
you
week.
cancelled on me.
No, so if you can get me some gigs, I'll come straight back for them. But I'm only going to come back if you get paid first, up front, and so that when they get cancelled, you say, I've got the money.
Yes.
Not that I do it for money.
No, I know that.
I just do it because I like to be involved. Yeah, right. Okay, thank you.